Hello everyone. In this video today, what I want to do is to complete the third portion of the machine learning model tutorial that we started. In the first video, we have set up our local development environment and we created a workspace. In the next video, what we did, we created some Python code and we learn how we can use the control script to run our code from the local environment and also in our cloud environment. Okay, and in this lab what we're going to learn is to how to train our model. So just to give you some background, so we have already completed this. So this is my machine learning workspace. Let me see if I'm still logged in. Yeah, so this is the current directory is my sponsorship. This is the workspace that we created in the very first lab using command line. And we have created one experiment and we have a compute cluster environment that is also I created uh, in the previous lab. So this is the experiment that I created. If I go back to email lab, so let's just expand this one out. Cancel this one, expand this one out. Where's my compute? Seems a little slow right now. Let me just, okay, here's the compute and compute cluster. And this is the CPU cluster that we have created. And this is also that we created using the code. Okay, and we followed our lab as closely as possible to create this environment. And so the experiment that we had, the experiment was also run successfully. So we are really ready to start the lab that's we're gonna do in this lab, which is creating a training script. Use Conda to define the Azure Machine Learning environment. Create a control script, understand Azure Machine Learning classes, environment, run and metrics, submit and run our training script, and view our output, log metrics to Azure Machine Learning and view metrics in the cloud. So as I said, prerequisite, you have to complete the first part 1 and part 2. If you are unable to do that, please review the last 2 videos that I have done. So what the other thing, we already created a folder structure, so let's just go there, and tutorial is our top level directory. So if I do a ls on it or do a lslah, you will see that we have a few things in here. We have a .azure.ml directory. This one got a config file that has all the information about your workspace in the cloud. Here create the workspace, that Python script that we wrote to create the workspace, and this script that we wrote to create the compute cluster. Then this is the code that we have already run. Within source we have some sample files for testing the Python code that is working locally and also in that remote cluster environment. All right, so here what they're saying, inside the source directory, do this, do your model.py. So what we'll do, let's see if I have the code open already. Source is the folder that I want to select. Click on the plus icon to create a new file, Control V, and hit enter. That should give me a blank model.py file. And what I'll do, I'm just going to copy this code and put it in here. Now if you look at this one, this code that they have got, this is taken from the introductory example from PyTorch, and they are telling that, hey, note that Azure Machine Learning concepts apply to any machine learning code, not just by PyTorch. Okay, so this is just a sample model code that you can use for a machine learning. Okay, so there are a few things that you need. The model and the training code is something that there is also you should need. So next you define the training script, right? The script downloads the CIFAR10 dataset by using the PyTorch Torch Vision dataset API, sets up the network defined in model.py and train it for 2 epochs by using standard SGD and cross entropy loss. Okay, so this is you need a neural network, and then you need to train the whole model to come up with this type of training. So what we'll do, we'll create another script, we'll call it train. And just remember, when you go to code, this, you have the solid ball, means it's the code is not saved, so do Control S, and now you have the cross icon, that means the code is not saved. Okay, so remember to do that. So go back to the source, and I'm going to create another file, train.py, and here I'm going to get this code, and I'm going to put it over here. And in this code is using the torch module, torch optim as optim, torch vision is what they're using as well, and for a model importing net, and here they're downloading CIFAR10 dataset, and here's most likely they're downloading, and this is the variable that's storing the data. And then they have trend loader, and they have loss optimizer, they're setting it up over here, and here they're training the network for epoch in range, running loss starting at 0.0 for I, data in enumerate, trend loader 0, and they're doing this training model. Okay, so now you have the following directory structure. So if you go under source, you should have the hello.py, model.py, and the train.py, and we do have that. So I'm just going to create, and I created the training scripts. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is create a new Python environment. To do that, create a file called pytorch envyml. So we're gonna create this file. So copy this name of the file, go inside the Azure ML, and then hit the plus icon for a new file. Okay, other thing I just noticed, the train.py, I have not saved it, so let's just save this one first. Come back over here, and in this one, this is like a YAML file. If you have done any Ansible, you probably familiar with this code, so I'm just going to copy that one. Name pytorch env, channels, default, and pytorch, and dependencies, they have something in here, so I'm just going to copy and put it in there, and just do Control S. So I'm going to click on I created the environment file, and then test locally, and this one we can run some commands. Let's see, bash, if you're still using the tutorial environment, exit it. Okay, bash deactivate. So deactivate will activate the current environment. So in this command line, I'm still using the previously created environment. I created that by using conda activate. Now I'm just running the command conda deactivate, deactivate code not accept arguments. So just do this, just do this much, and let's see if that works. Conda deactivate, and there we go. So that activate is now deactivate is work properly. And to create a new conda environment using the file where we have defined the new environment, we just need to run this command. So here conda env create, so environment create, and if file, and then where is the file located? Azure ML pytorch envyml. So hit enter, and again now this time it's going to create, and it's going to look for any missing packages or anything like that. If there is something that's needed, it's looking for it, and how much data you might need to download and stuff like that. So it's getting all of that. So let's just give it a couple of seconds, and still going pretty well. While this is going on, let's see what the next thing that we need to do. Once we have that that code downloaded, we can run then conda activate, and then python env to activate that environment. So let's see, this is still getting downloaded. Once that's done, we are going to run python src train.py script, and that script is going to train the model. And after we run the script, we will see the data downloaded into a directory called tutorial data. So now here it's doing everything, and that's it. So I have everything. That environment is now ready. Let's just do a ls on it, and you see that right now I don't have any data directory in here. No data directory. So what I'm gonna do, we have just run this one. The last command that we ran was this. Okay, so now we're gonna do this command to activate that environment. Okay, so let's see, activate that environment. So that environment is now activated, and once this environment activated, we're gonna just run this script and see if it works. Okay, let's see, paste and hit enter, and if everything goes well, the script will run, and you will see the data directory will be downloaded with all the data that we need for this particular project. So let's go back over here, and it will be tutorial data. Okay, so the code is still running. So the next thing that we need to do in here, we need to create the control script. And as we talked in the previous lab, control script that we have used to submit the hello world. Okay, so in the same script, the difference between the following script and the other script that we use is that you add a couple of extra lines to set the environment. So previous one, we had a different environment, and this time we are just going to use the environment that we just created. So it's about the same code that we have already run, just a little bit to change the environment. So let's come back over here, and you see the data is now being downloaded. Okay, and you will have the data and everything available to you pretty soon. Already 38.9% is downloaded. Okay, so while this is downloading, we can actually go ahead and get started with this code. So let's just go ahead, make a file, and this time we're going to use the top level tutorial directory. So let's just go over here, go back to our tutorial, again click that button, create that file that I need, and in this file we need this particular code. Okay, so here is my code, and in the code you have the env. Okay, the env file that we have, the env set of the Python environment. Azure Machine Learning provides the concept of an environment to represent a reproducible, versionized Python environment for running experiments. It's easy to create an environment from a local Conda or PP environment. It's pretty good. So config.run config environment, it adds the environment to the run config. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now once we have all that, we can submit the run to Azure Machine Learning. So switch back to the tutorial environment that has the Azure Machine Learning SDK for Python installed. Since the training code isn't running in your running on your computer, you don't need to have the PyTorch installed, but you do need the Azure SDK, which is in the tutorial environment. So in this time, what we will have to do, we're gonna deactivate the environment, we're gonna activate the Conda environment, and then we're gonna run the code. So let's come back over here, make sure before we go too far, my data is now downloaded. It looks like a lot of data is downloaded now. It's getting executed, or the training for the model is has been started. So let it just run for a second, and once this is done, let's see over here what is going on over here. Once that is done, we will be able to run our code in the cloud. So since this is going pretty well, I'm just going to pause the video for a second. Once the download is done, we'll restart the lab. Alright, the data is now downloaded, and if you see finish training, the training is also done. So if I look at ls data and go in there, you see that we have the data that's in here, and I have that another file as well within this data directory. Okay, so what we need to do next, since we have everything now ready, we were here, So what we'll need to do, we need to run these codes, conda deactivate, conda activate tutorial. That's the environment where we have the Azure ML SDK, and then run this Python code. So let's just come back over here, and I'm just going to run all of them together. I had an extra something in there. Paste one more time, hit enter. I don't think it ran properly, so I'm just gonna copy this first, paste, conda deactivate. Didn't even give any result. Let's see if this one gives me any output. Okay, from base it says it's now tutorial. Now let's see if I can run the script. No, I don't think it's running actually. So let's first go back, and this, you see, this is a solid circle. That means this code is not saved, so you have to save the code. Otherwise the code is going there and thinking there is nothing in there to run. So this time, now see if it's now it's thinking, now it knows, man, there is something in there and I need to run, I have to work on it. So now what it's doing, Azure experiment. So now it has put this particular experiment in our cloud, most likely. Okay, so first time we run the script, Azure Machine Learning will build a new Docker image, but we ran another script, not this one. So it already took that long. So let's just go and see in our Azure environment what is going on. So if we go in here, ML test, I don't need to do this. Stay just a second. Just do this, and again I need experiments, and let's see what is going on. Okay, so this is the train. Okay, this is the one that I ran yesterday, and the day one experiment train is something that we just started now. Okay, so let's just click on this one and see what is going on at the moment. Okay, so it says the status is preparing. So again, it may take a little bit of time for this model to run, and what it said, for the first time it might take 5 to 6 minutes, because just like any other query tool, it's gonna download a Docker image, and for my PyTorch environment, and the whole run might take 5 to 10 minutes. So once this is done, what we'll do, we'll come back over here and we'll look into the log and make sure that everything was ran successfully. Okay, so let's see over here, you come back. Yeah, the log is like a 70 driver log, and we'll see that this output would match the output that we have that we already have in our local environment. Okay, so let's just wait, pause the video for a little bit more, and once my experiment is running successfully, so the status is complete, we'll come back and review the data. And I'll just, while this is running, I can just go back to the experiment and do one thing for you guys, show you what's the status of the previous one that I ran, so you can kind of understand what would be the end. What do you expect when an experiment is done? So it will say completed. Okay, so that's where we want to be. So let's just click on experiments and let it run for a few more minutes, and we'll come back and then review the logs. That's where we are. All right, let's come back and just pause the recording for one more time. Hey guys, I just want to unpause for a second just to show you that this training, the preparation, it used to be preparing, and now it's in a running state. It's running the code at the moment. That means once this this is done, and then what we'll do, it will show up as the completed, and then we'll look at the logs. Okay, then I'm gonna right now I'm gonna repause it one more time. All right, everybody, the experiment that we started is now done. So if we come back to my experiment, day one experiment train, this run is now completed, and if you look at it, Azure ML logs, there are a whole bunch of logs. 70 driver log txt is the log that we wanted to look at, and if you see here, now we have successfully run the code in our cloud environment, and that it should look kind of familiar because we have run the same thing in our local environment as well. So that's about it. Let's see what next, what else do we need to do. So we are done with this part, and here they have some warning. If you see that your total snapshot size exceeds the limit, the data directory is located in the source directory value used in script run config, move data outside source. Okay, that's something we didn't get this error, so it's okay for us to move on. Now remember, these environments can be registered to a workspace with environment dot register, and then WS is the workspace that we are creating in these labs. They can then be easily shared, reused, and versionized. Environments make it easy to reproduce previous result and to collaborate with your team. So let's say I submitted the run, I can click on it. So I think the last thing that we are doing over here is the log training metrics. So now that you have a model training in Azure Machine Learning, start taking some performance metrics. So that's let's see how we can do that. Now, if you read this, the current training script prints metrics to the terminal. The Azure Machine Learning provides a mechanism for logging metrics with more functionality. By adding a few lines of code, you gain ability to visualize the metrics in the studio and to compare metrics between multiple runs. That's pretty neat, right? So we're gonna modify the train.py to include logging. Let's see. So this is the additional code, get ML run from the current context. Okay, so just a few lines of code. So what I'll do, I'm just gonna copy this, go back to the train.py. So let's see where it is, train.py, and then Control A, get rid of this code and put back the new code in there, and then save. Okay, so we have just added a few lines of code in here, nothing, not a whole lot. Okay, let's see, so this should be good. And here the line that we added, understand the additional lines, 2 lines of code. So run dot get context, and we also run another line, run dot log loss. So what it is, metrics in Azure Machine Learning are organized by experiment and run. So it's easy to keep track of component metrics. So you have to look at each run. So equip with the UI, so you can visualize training performance in the studio, and design to scale. Okay, so you can keep the benefits even as you run hundreds of experience. So let's click on I modified the PY. So did we do that? Make sure that we have done that. Yeah, we have done this now. I modified the trend period. So update the Conda environment file. So what we'll do, the train script, just we took new dependency Azure ML.core. So we're gonna update the YAML file that we have created. So come back over here, PyTorch environment. So let's just update this one with some additional dependency. Once we have that, what we can do, we can submit and run the Azure Machine Learning. So copy this code again and come back over here and just do a clear on it. So get a clear window and paste and then hit, and it should be running my code now. Just make sure that code that I have, I actually saved it. Seems like it did, so it should be running my code, and there we go. It already submitted the code to my cloud environment, and it should be you should see a third experiment in there by now. So let's just go over there to the cloud in my Azure. So let's go back to the experiments. Okay, and let's see, just come back over here. Actually, don't need this. Cancel. It's a little slow sometimes, so just give it a minute. All experiments. I'm just gonna refresh it one more time. All right, so refresh experiments, and hopefully it has registered the experiment that we just started for the third time. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it's loading. Okay, no, so the next one, latest run is 2. So the first run that I ran yesterday, and in this training I'm running this model twice, so now the latest run is run number 2. So just click on that one to see what is going on with this run that we are doing at the moment, where we added couple new lines of code. So at this time you see that the first run was completed. This one is again preparing. This time it should not take too long. Last time it took about 5 minutes, just because I think we should have the Docker container already downloaded, and it should only be running the code, and it does not have to download the Docker container again. But we'll see. So over here, let's go over here, and once this is done, once you visit the studio, you go to the metrics tab where you can see the live updates on the model training loss. So here actually, so what they're saying, if you go to our metrics, am I on the right? Yeah, here, let's go open up this one. This is preparing, and just click on the metric. And right now there are no metrics, but this metric will show up as soon as this is still in the preparing stage. As soon as this starts running the run 2, we will have the metrics available in here. All right, so the next thing, so that we'll wait for a few minutes. So once this is done, uh, everything went well. We never really ran into any issues for all 3 sections as part of the getting started with the Azure Machine Learning. So that's been pretty good. So the next thing that we can do is we can bring our own data once we're done with this particular lab. So we are at the very end of successfully completing this section. So let me just wait here for a second and see if any metrics is showing up. So nothing is. Oh, it says completed. Why did it not show me any metric? Okay, so it's over here. Oh, it still says preparing. Let me refresh it over here. Still preparing. So yeah, so it's not really done. Okay, so that's the reason it's saying we don't have any metric yet. So all right, so but so far everything we have done worked pretty nicely. So I don't see I don't feel like we'll be seeing any problem with this code. So let me just pause again, and let's think what to do for our next lab, where we're gonna bring in our own data. Okay, configure a training script, test the training script locally, upload data to Azure. Again, we're going to create a control script, understand the new Azure machine learning concepts, passing parameters, data sets, and data stores. Submit and run our training script, and at the end we'll view the code output in the cloud. All right, again the prerequisite will be we have to complete all first 3, which we will have done by the time we start this lab in our next video. All right, I'm just going to pause this one more time and be back and in the video and get ready with the next one. Hope that you are following with this series with me, and hope that you do not have any problem following. All right, everyone, we are done pretty much with our lab now, and I wanted to end this video with the chart. And you can see, since we added the code, we have the metrics for the loss available to us as a graph. Okay, and you can also look at the data as a table view if you like, but the graph is kind of more useful. All right, so we have completed the train your model lab, all sections in this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hope you are enjoying your machine learning as much as I do. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video where we're going to bring your own data. Thanks.